Welcome to the Extra Pass podcast presented by Melbourne United. I'm Ben Hopkins, joined as always by my co-host Adam Ballinger. Balls, how are you today?
I'm doing just wonderful.
And also joined here by new Melbourne United assistant coach Jacob Chance. Jacob, how are you today, mate?
Good. How are you guys?
You know, living the dream.
That's right. I've been nervous about this all day long.
Me too.
Well, no, you've just landed in Melbourne. You're sort of slowly trying to settle in here. You know, it's obviously a big move. What's it like?
Yeah, it's anytime you come back to the big smoke, it's always interesting. Certainly the hour drive from the airport this morning was a little different to the 15-minute commute in Hobart. But yeah, it's exciting. Melbourne's always been a place for me growing up. Like, it's a bit foreign to people who live in Perth, but it's kind of the mecca in terms of you come over here for footy weekends and that kind of stuff. So I still pinch myself every time I get to come back to it. I do love the city and I love the vibe and everything that comes with it, and just happy to be here.
Yeah. Did you spend a lot of time here? Obviously, you grew up in Perth, so did you get over to Melbourne a lot, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big thing back when I was growing up when you turned 18 to come over here for kind of like a grand final weekend. So I'm lucky my birthday kind of falls on the GF every year, and that was the first trip I did. Like, turned 18, got on a jet, came over here and saw Geelong beat Collingwood, I'm pretty sure, in 2011. And yeah, those memories will always stick. Coming here to watch West Coast win a flag in 06, I think it was. You just don't forget that stuff growing up. So yeah, I've had more time since being involved in the NBL. The NBL Cup is something I try not to think about too much, being stuck in a hotel room. But yeah, I love coming back to the city.
Yeah, no, NBL Cup was something different. Balls, do you get any? Have you gotten to any AFL grand finals? It's a different atmosphere.
No grand final. I think I've been to two. I've been to two AFL games, which is I'm a bad
12
father.
years.
Yeah, I know, I'm a bad father.
You gotta get
We're
that done.
Essendon fans. I'm a diehard Essendon fan.
Diehard. Who's your favorite player?
The tall guy.
Oh, wow.
I don't have a favorite player. I just like the whole team, all of them. But I need to. Like, the boys are into it. I just need to do it. The song.
Yeah. Do you know the Essendon song?
They don't win enough. I don't hear it enough.
No time.
Since I've got here, I haven't heard it enough.
Jacob, you're a West Coast man, I presume.
Yeah, having a couple of years off footy with West Coast the way they are at the moment. So I'll find a Victorian team to support while I'm here.
Yeah, well, I'm a Brisbane man. I feel like footy comes up every podcast, so
yeah, well, it's Australia, Melbourne at least. Yeah,
goes that way. But yeah, it's been a pretty hectic off season for you. Obviously, you make the announcement, you head over here. But have you had any time to sort of get away and try to relax?
I have. I was pretty lucky. Well, not lucky. We obviously wish we played in a grand final series, but I had a contingency plan. We missed out. Obviously joined Dean for the Boomers series, and then after that spent 3 weeks back in the States, which was really nice. And that was PD-ish, but also quite relaxing. Just I was by myself, so you spend a lot of time with your own thoughts and just chilling out and reflecting. Came back to Tassie, went through this process, and then yeah, just last week got back from Bali for 5 or 6 days, which was really nice. And tried to shut it down and get away from basketball altogether, which is difficult. But I've enjoyed just getting back to normal. This is, I think, why everyone loved the NBL was because of how short and condensed the season was over the summer. And to get back to a place where we have 6 months of the year not in season is really nice. I think it's good for everyone's mental health. And I've enjoyed just being away from the competition a little bit. I'm sure in a month or so I'll be chomping at the bit to get back. But yeah, it's been good, I think, for everyone in the league just to refresh and hit reset and get back to normal.
Yeah, where'd you go on that America trip? So I know you say it was a bit of PD. So were you?
Yeah. So I was with Matty Nielsen at the Spurs for 10 to 12 days, I think, there for a little bit, just to fly on the wall, hanging out. It's something I've been meaning to do for a long time, and then spent 6 days with Brooklyn with Adam Caporn, so 2 obviously Australian assistants that are sitting over there, and was really lucky. Those guys opened the door for me and showed me around, and just got to observe and take it in while enjoying some downtime too.
Yeah, what's PD-ish? What's PD?
Personal development.
Yeah, personal development. Professional development. I don't know which one it is.
Oh, whatever it is.
I played with Caves.
Yep.
In Wollongong for 4 years before he went to Perth, and then because of his knees, he had to stop. But went straight into coaching. Yeah, he was born to be a coach, I think.
He's got it in him, that's for sure. He can give people a spray, and funnily enough, when I was playing club basketball back in Perth, so I was coming through. I was 15, 16. He was on the back end of his career, so he finished at Perth. Yeah, that was when I first got exposed to him and met him, and. Yeah, he's done great things. Center of excellence. I think obviously, if he wanted to be an NBL coach, he probably would be by now. But he's in a great spot there in Brooklyn and just absolutely crushing it.
He was always mad at me for screwing up plays. But it's not my fault. He knew him too well. I'm out there just playing. I'm just moving. Just give me the ball.
Just get it done.
Yeah,
get out of the way and I'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean it's super interesting to see that. It's something we discussed with Dino when he was on. You know, the players that you saw on the court who you always thought, oh, that's going to be a future head coach? Are there any players that, throughout your time that you've seen that you're like, oh, yeah, this guy's going to be a good head coach?
That's a good question. Because I think there's players that I think would be a good head coach, and then there's guys who would, I think, actively pursue it as well. Because there's a lot of guys you see, but then you talk to them about it, and they're just like, I actually don't want to go down that path.
Yeah.
I always thought Sean Redditch was an interesting one. I thought he had the demeanour and the ability to speak to guys that he was certainly massive for me as a young coach. Like, he taught me a lot, and I got to work with him every day, and it was great. But I don't think he'd go down that path. He's gone into more individual side of things. The one most recently would be Josh Majette. And I think he'll definitely pursue it, and he's going to be an unbelievable head coach. Him and Jared Weeks probably were the two in Tassie that just love it, have a passion for bringing people together and being with younger guys and doing all those things that I think go a long way to, when you're a head coach, you're a connector and you're someone who's looking after a group of people, and I think those two have it in spades.
Again, it's a couple of point guards. That's something we talked about. It's usually the point guards that go into it. My favourite all-time player was Steve Nash. He obviously didn't get the greatest run as a head coach so far.
Yeah, he'll get another chance. Those guys get million chances.
Let's just get him on the bench at Phoenix.
Yeah, maybe an assistant. Maybe learn a little bit first before he's.
Yeah, it was a pretty quick transition. Well, look, we're going to go into a quick break, but once we get back from that, Jacob, we'll get into a bit about yourself and a bit about your history as a coach. Obviously, started quite young, and a bit about what you're looking to do here at Melbourne United. So we'll be back after this short break.
Melbourne United memberships are on sale now. Lock in your seat for the most exciting show in Australian sport and guarantee you're there for every highlight across this next season. To find out more, go to membership.melbourneutd.com.au.
And we're back on the Extra Pass presented by Melbourne United here with Jacob Chance. Jacob, a bit about yourself. Obviously, you're a Perth boy. You grew up playing basketball, but you got into coaching pretty young. What was that transition like, or what was it like going from playing basketball to making the decision, I'm going to try to jump in and get into the coaching side of it?
It's a good question. I started really young. So I was coaching like my little sister's team, I think it was. And it was like I was 13 as an assistant, just helping out. Mum kind of makes you do it, I guess. But you pretty quickly figure out whether you're going to make it or not. And I think you get to that age of like 17, 18, you start looking around like, can't do half the things these blokes can do. And I think if you're honest with yourself, you kind of get to that moment where, do you want to keep chasing this? And lots of people do, and I really enjoy seeing people who get after it, even though they may be on that under-talented side of things. But I wanted to find a way to stay in the sport. That was my biggest thing. I had such a passion for the sport and being in a team and trying to compete and win championships. And I learned that when I was 17. Like I said before, that team I was on, you'd just be sitting on the end of the bench like, I'm not playing. I'm never going to play. If I get a chance to play, cool, I'll go out there and give it a crack, but I suck. But how can I help? Can I help the head coach? Can I help run a drill? Can I help in a timeout? Can I try and pick someone up? And when you get a passion for that, I think that was kind of where it started. And then just got really lucky with some timing things in terms of the pro space. Perth had a volunteer opportunity open up and got stuck into that, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, obviously you come into a team that I presume you supported, as a kid, and that must be pretty exciting. And you've sort of worked your way up within the Perth system. What was that like when you first came in? Was it just stars in your eyes?
It was. Yeah, it's hard to describe because you're exactly right. Like I went from sitting at Challenge watching Sean Redditch, Damien Martin, like guys you look up to as a kid. They had come off a pretty poor year, so they were in a weird space and they were trying to go for, I think they signed Nate Jarwai just before I got there, and they were like, we're loading up, going for a championship. And to be honest, I knew Adam Ford really well. He was the one who talked to me about the opportunity, and I just saw it as 6 months. How good is this? I'll come in, be a fly on the wall, film practice, do Mad Monday, win a championship, and be good, and go home and be done. And I'll go back to being a physio, which was my trade, and I thought nothing of it. And it wasn't until I started working with Nick Marvin, who was a GM at the time, Trev, and saw a bit of a pathway there, which I don't think at that time was a massive space in the NBL. It certainly was in the NBA. Which shifted my focus a little bit, take it a little bit more seriously and try and dig in, and just got fortunate with some timing, which is what pro sports is usually about. Was in a really good environment that promoted development of their people, and got lucky.
I think so much of coaching is, or it seems to be to me, is like you just got to get a foot in. Like if you want to be a head coach or you want to go up the coaching ladder, you have to be prepared at the start to work long hours, not make much money, and just get in there and prove yourself, and then the connections you make pay off later. But it's not like you go in, you don't just start as an assistant making good money. It's you got to put your work in first.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect storm I had. Was like I was just graduating from uni. I was 21, so I didn't have kids. I didn't need to have crazy financial security. It's like, hey, this is a volunteer spot. You're kind of the perfect candidate. And then afterwards, when I'd interview people for that spot, I had those exact discussions. Like, you're a great coach, but you've got 3 kids. You're going to be able to come in and do this. And they're leaving full-time jobs or full-time coaching gigs at clubs. But it's the discussion that you were having before about ex-players, I think, are the ones that probably struggle the most in terms of they want to come in and be a coach, but you've got to learn your craft. You have to find a balance of that. And spoken to many ex-players about, it's a big adjustment. It's very different to the playing life. Like, you can't just leave at midday. Like, in the afternoon, you're spending time watching video and doing these things. And I think the best ones go through that craft, whether it's AFL, NBL, NBA. And certainly being able to apply yourself and having time to do that is difficult, but I think it's really important.
So coaches don't take a 2:00 nap every day?
I try to personally, but it's certainly it's a massive adjustment for some of those guys. And I think the more you can help prepare the ones that are passionate about it. We did a lot of work in Tassie with Jared Weeks last year, trying to prepare him for that, and hopefully it'll pay off. But yeah, he's certainly exposing himself to that side of the game, which I think is important.
Yeah, and I think the passion, obviously, and basically everyone within the NBL and within professional sport, you've got to have that passion for it. And I feel like you even see people who might come into a sporting organisation from the outside and maybe not as passionate for the sport, but the bug bites you so quickly, and you just find yourself living and dying by the team. So it was pretty special for you to come into an environment where you already had that passion, had that love for the team, love for the game, and then get to put that into what became, your job.
Yeah, no, mate, you've nailed it. I was, like I said, I thought it was 6 months where I was just going to be hanging out and learning and doing some cool stuff, and never thought anything more of it. And had some really, really good people around me. Adam Ford, obviously up in Cairns, crushing it right now. Matt Nielsen was there at the time, and that turned a dream into reality, which was really cool.
Yeah, and obviously we'll stay in Perth, and a couple of Perth boys that are now with United that you had some connections with in Kyle Bowen and Luke Travers. What was it like seeing them come up? And obviously they took different paths. KB going to St. Mary's and LT going to Perth. But talk about what you've seen from them, and how exciting is it to have a couple of familiar faces here in Melbourne?
No, it's pretty awesome. Like, we tried to recruit KB down in Tassie as well this off season, so I was pretty bummed when we missed out on him, and then I get to flip the script and come here and join him anyway. But 2 high-level, high-character guys. KB was someone who we were really lucky to just have in our program coming out of the Institute, and got exposed to him and helped expose him to the NBL before he went to St. Mary's, and just does everything you want from a player within your program, from the on-court to the off-court to what he brings to the locker room. Just an all-round great kid, high IQ, really, really special human from a great family, and I'm so pumped to be working with him again. You love those guys that come in and bring it every day. Wears his heart on his sleeve. It's just, he's a beast, and I'm glad to be around him again. LT, different cat to KB, but an unbelievable talent, and a kid that we grew up in the same hometown and played for the same junior club coming up through the ranks. I'm a little bit older, obviously, but had a lot to do with him, I guess, as a kid, and transitioning him into the NBL. And he had a very different pathway, as you said, but so proud of what he's been able to do, and he's got a lot of big things ahead of him, and excited for him to get out of his comfort zone. It was like me, he had to get out of Perth at some stage, and to get over here to a good city with great resources and a great club is going to be really good.
Yeah, you talk about different personalities between the two of them, obviously just wired differently in some senses. I guess one for you as well, Balls, is how difficult or what's it like working within a team where you've got to balance, it's not, everyone is not at times the perfect, I guess, all on the exact perfect wavelength. There's everyone doing different stuff. How difficult can it be or how challenging can it be to balance all those different personalities and get behind the common goal of winning?
I think that is the challenge. I think as a head coach, your main job in a team, in my opinion, is balancing that team and getting them to work for you. You got to get 5 guys on the court who are willing to run through a wall for you, and you've got to kind of approach everyone in a different way as far as what makes them tick, and because everybody's not the same, especially on a basketball team. They all might be good at basketball, but that's kind of where it stops. And I think as a head coach, I may be wrong here, but yeah, X's and O's are, important, and adjustments, all that's really important. That's also what you have assistants for that are really good at that. But you got to be able to know how to get to players and know how to get them working on the same page. And that necessarily isn't just basketball. That's more of just like a feel for it. And, I guess that's what I'd say. But I've never been a head coach though.
Oh, it's 100% it though. It's any time I think you're in any team environment or striving for a common goal. I think Justin Langer talked about it in the documentary with the cricket, and he said like you can be flexible with personalities, but you can't be flexible with standards and expectations. And I think that is the way to juggle it. Like we'll let anyone walk through the door, very inclusive. We're open to every personality there is, but we're making sure that at the same time when you put on this jersey, it's always about the front, not the back. And I think that's what the best teams and the best clubs do. And ultimately, when you have great team success, you usually get individual success off the back of that, and that's how you kind of massage that process. But it is. I think you nailed it. It's coaching. It's trying to put everyone together as different as they might be and go for the same thing.
And you talk about pride for the jersey. A couple of jerseys we've got next to us, Delhi and CG. What's it like, or has it sunk in a bit that, these are a couple of guys that have really dominated this era of Australian basketball, and now you're going to be on a coaching staff helping to lead them, and I guess probably hoping to get something from them as much as you're looking to give? No,
100%. Like the best teams are collaborative in their approach from 1 to 15, and then all your staff, medical, support staff, and I think that's really important. I'm pumped. These two guys, I mean, I haven't had a lot to do with Chris apart from just being on the bad end of big games for a lot of my career. And he's got that amazing ability as a player. Like I think him and Bryce are the two probably in our league that you're just always scared. Like that's just the only way to describe it. Like you come into a game, it's the fourth quarter and he's having a poor night. It doesn't matter. Like you're just terrified of what could come, especially here at John Cain Arena. And Delhi, I was lucky enough to spend a little bit of time with him with the Boomers program back in June. But just two world-class guys in terms of their approach and how they go about it. And I'll definitely learn more from them than they will from me. But I'm just happy to be around them and be exposed to them and hopefully help them where I can.
Well, a bit of that just loops into something we got, a mailbag question from Rob, and it was for you, and I'd like you to pitch in on this one as well, Balls. But who is the hardest player you've had to game plan against so far in your coaching career?
Oh, Bubbles would be up there. Yeah, Chris is extremely difficult. Like I said before, you just can't have rests. Like the best players will never let you take a rest, whether that's because they're a world-class shooter like Chris, or maybe they're an unbelievable rebounder, offensive like Jack White, who was here before. Like he was difficult because you can tell you guys a million times, hey, he crashes the O glass, but in the heat of the battle, it's extremely difficult to keep a 6'7" athletic guy who goes there all the time, doesn't have a play off the glass. So yeah, Chris will be up there. Chris and Bryce for me are the two that stand out. I think they're the world-class players in our league and have been for the last 5-6 years. And more from that fear factor, they can take a game away from you in a quarter if you're really not careful. And yeah, that would probably be my two.
Balls, who was it when you were playing? Who was the guy that when you saw their name on the calendar, you're like, oh, I just don't know how to stop this guy?
Probably
you can't say yourself.
No, I won't say myself. You talk about Redditch. Yep. He was my nemesis, Redditch was. We lost. Well, actually, Adelaide and Perth, we had a ton of good games. Even if we were struggling, we usually were. We would play Perth close games. We'd actually beat him a lot, sometimes in Perth. But he was a guy that always he's just winning all these games and all these championships and made me so mad. And he's a great guy. He's a nice guy. It's hard to hate him, but.
It's almost the worst part.
Oh,
when they're a better dude.
Like, just never, but I was always jealous of, the community you guys had over there and all those, it's a stability of all those players sticking around and playing on the same page. Anyways, the toughest guy that I played against was Anstey. As far as that game plan, like he's every bit of 7'2". He can shoot the three. He can post moves. He knows how to get fouls on you.
Did you say Chris Anstey is 7'2"?
Oh, I would say he's 7'2". I know he's not listed as that, but he's probably every bit of 7'2" with shoes on. Yeah, elbows like knives, and like all the refs gave him all the calls. Always complaining to the ref. And it's kind of like, if he gets the ball in the low post, you try your hardest, but there's not a whole lot you can do once he goes to turn and shoot his shot. So he was the toughest player I think I had to play against.
Yeah, it's obviously I don't have that professional experience. But
what about you? Who's the toughest?
Toughest guy I've had to.
Who scared you the most when you've been working for the club? Fourth quarter, who gives you the most fear?
Oh, I've only been here. This is going into my third season with the club. Bryce is obviously a guy that you just see. You can do everything right for 23 seconds and then he can just hit the shot.
Yep.
Josh Adams, when he was here,
Yep.
you know, he just made obviously a few giant shots against us. Another Tassie guy, Jack McVeigh. I feel like Jack McVeigh, he was just,
especially
I feel like
against Melbourne United.
he's just
turned
always,
it on.
I feel like against us, he was just always open or something was, he just knew how to get things. But those are big guys that come to mind immediately as Barry Brown Jr. Barry Brown Jr. last year, he was just a bucket and he just had just the elite confidence. It didn't matter if he had missed 10 shots in a row, which I don't think he did very often.
Yep.
But he just always had that confidence to just come back. But yeah, I can easily see watching the game. I just think, man, Chris must be such a pain in the ass to try to game plan against, because I think it was later in the season last year against Brisbane, he was having an up and down game, and then it got to the third quarter and Brisbane were making a run and Melbourne just needed to hit some shots, and I think in the space of a minute 30 he hit 4 threes and it just broke the entire game open, and it was sort of smooth sailing from there.
I think the biggest battle with those guys, and Adam would know this way better than me, but it's just trying not to get deterred by it as a group. Like anytime we played Chris, it was like, he's going to make ridiculous shots. Yeah. Like, let's make sure when that happens, our body language doesn't slump, or you see it all the time. Like a big shot goes in and everyone just stops and they don't get the ball out of the net quick. And we're pretty big on him and Bryce and these guys are going to make world-class shots. They're world-class players, but can we drive the percentage down and can we not let it deter our game plan is, usually half the battle. I did think of someone while we're talking though, and I'd be remiss not to mention it because he is an extremely difficult scout, is Daniel Johnson.
DJ.
I don't know DJ at all, but what you're talking about with Chris, like he had the refs in his back pocket and he just, but there's literally when he's going, there's nothing he can do. And he has every trick in the bag. And he's someone I think is underrated as a scorer and just a fair guy in the league. Like he can put 20 on you in a quarter.
Yeah, and he's done it for a long time. Like he came when I was in Adelaide. He came for his first year there, and
You would have had some battles with him.
yeah, in practice. And he once I had left, he quickly slotted into the main guy there, and he hasn't let it go. Like he's just so consistent. He's not injured. I mean, he's always healthy. And he's so quiet too. Like he doesn't say a word. Like you could not get him to say anything. No matter what you did in game, practice, nothing.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and even you see how he transitioned into playing for Australia in the 3-on-3. It's interesting to see the guys in the league. We've had a bit of discussion in the office. If you could put together the ideal 3-on-3 team out of NBL players, who would you put? And DJ's been really good in that 3-on-3 setting. I'm probably a bit biased. I think Melbourne, out of if you took any NBL lists at the moment and tried to put together the best 3-on-3 team, I think Melbourne's got a pretty good one. You put someone like Shea out there or Delhi out there, just two-way guys, Chris for his shooting, Joe and Ariel, just size and being able to move and switch. I think we'd have a pretty formidable team. 100%.
It's a fascinating space, 3-on-3. I haven't seen enough of it, but I do know one thing: you have to be in crazy shape to play it. And it's been impressive watching guys like Todd Blanchfield, Daniel Johnson, like these guys. Lucas Walker's still playing in it. I think he's going to a World Cup. All in great shape, and they all come back from it saying how hard it was and how taxing it was. And it's a cool side of our game. Hopefully, it keeps growing.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take one more break, and we've known a bit about you or learnt a bit about you professionally, but now Balls has got his Fast Five segment. He's going to learn a bit about you off the court and maybe throw some hairy questions at you. So we'll take a quick break and come back on the Extra Pass right after this.
Want to stay up to date with everything happening in Melbourne United? Download the Melbourne United app today. Filled with videos, audio and articles about your favourite team, it's the one-stop shop for everything Melbourne United. Download the Melbourne United app via the App Store on iOS or the Google Play Store on Android.
And we're back here on the Extra Pass presented by Melbourne United, here with Jacob Chance. And we're about to jump into, I know, Balls, your favourite segment. It's Fast Five.
Ready?
This is Fast Five with Balls.
Been waiting for this the whole time. Now we're on to the fun stuff. Yeah, they're hard hitting, so I hope you're ready. All right, Jake. We got the basketball stuff out of the way.
Yep.
All right, now we're on to the fun stuff. Now it's called Fast Five, but you don't have to answer them fast. It can be as slow as you want.
Good.
Okay. All right. Growing up, who was a player you loved to watch growing up, either locally or NBA?
I hate saying this because it'll go straight to his very large head. Damian Martin was probably mine as a Perth kid growing up. And I'll throw Brad Robbins in there too.
Oh, Robbo.
Yeah.
There's another guy. Man, we got a lot of connections here. Yeah. Robbo I came out here in 2003. He was a practice player or a development player back then. with the Giants. Okay. Liberty, we were only around for a couple years, 1 year. And great dude, just a real good guy. And then he went to Perth, perfect place for him, man. He was just a bulldog over there. Yeah.
I think our league's always suited, you got Shea and Delhi here in Melbourne, and the great Aussie or local, whether in New Zealand as well, like point guards. It's just been awesome. Brad is probably underrated in my books.
Yeah, I love Bravo. He was tough to play against. He'd give you a couple. Shots to the stomach when the ref weren't looking. And he didn't worry about it at all. What's a poster you had on your wall as a kid?
Oh,
or maybe now if you got posters on your wall still.
Wow. This is really random. I had the cutout. China played a game in Perth.
Yeah.
And there was a cutout on the back page of the West Australian, which was a size chart of Yao Ming.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I cut it out and had it on my wall.
Was it really 7'5"?
It's probably still there back up.
Actually 7'5".
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't. It was just on the back page of the paper.
Okay.
But I had like other key figures in West Australian sport.
Yeah.
Like, and I have no idea why. Andrew Vlahoff was one. Like, it just lived on my wall. I have no idea why.
That's a good one. I wonder if that's still out there. Yeah.
Big boy. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, now this is one I've asked a few times. How old are you?
29.
That's not the question. Okay, 29. So that's right around. Have you ever bought a CD?
Yes, many. They all got
really?
stolen out of my car, which I was very disappointed about.
No, you don't have to worry about that anymore these days. But
no. Yeah, but I have bought many
CDs.
CDs.
Bought a bunch. What was the first one you bought? Do you remember?
I want to say, and it's not my genre of music these days, but I want to say it might have been like an Eminem album or something like that.
Rap usually. Yeah. Well, you got our first one, Ben?
Oh, my first one's bad. My first one is like pure, like grade 6. Like, I want to be really cool. And you know what's cool? My Chemical Romance.
That's all right.
Yeah, I got My Chemical Romance. I got what that
I know,
CD
but not when I was like 12, being like, look how cool my fringe is. And this is awesome.
No, that's a good one. Mine was Big Pun. You guys know Big Punisher? Rapper?
No.
I'll have to bring it in. We'll have to listen. We'll have a listening party.
Bring your CD player.
Yeah, all our listeners out there throwing some Big Pun.
Maybe for the 100th episode, we'll just get everyone's first CDs and just hit play and walk out.
Okay, that was a good question. All right, if you were in a band, what instrument would you play?
Very musical oriented questions.
Aren't you into music? That's what somebody told me.
I am into music. No. Yeah, like we're talking about CDs now. Probably my most prized possession is my radiogram. It's been through the family that I had refurbished when I was in Perth, and getting that to Melbourne is going to be a massive challenge. But certainly vinyls now is something me and my partner do quite a bit of. And
nice.
I love live music. Another good thing about coming and live in Melbourne is
a lot of live music,
which I'm really excited about. If I was in a band, it's probably my one life regret is I didn't take up an instrument. When my dad was pushing it early. He was in a band growing up. He was a singer. He still sings. I was disappointed that I didn't stick with playing the guitar, and I think that's probably where I'd go back to. I know that's pretty generic, but
no, nice.
Anytime you're at a party or an event, you can whip out a guitar. It's just the biggest power.
But do you want to be at a party? Like, what are your thoughts if you're at a party?
No,
you saw a bloke across.
Well, it depends what kind of party.
Yeah. I think it's frowned upon, but I think if you were that person, you would change your perspective. Because you have the whole room and palm of your hand straight away.
Yeah.
Especially if you can play some bangers.
Yeah, you break out the guitar. I always think
Big Punisher or something like that.
Yeah. Not too much guitar music, but I always think if I would have put as much time into playing the guitar or drums as I did in basketball, because you've got to retire eventually.
Yep.
And then all those skills you put into like shooting a basketball, once you're retired, no one cares about it anymore.
Yep.
But if you put all that work into playing a guitar, I could still be going. I could play 100%. Guitar until I'm 70 years old.
Well, you can still learn now. There's nothing stopping you.
I don't know. Yeah. 10,000 hours now seems like a lot of work.
Everyone's still impressed here when you bring out all the tricks for when we play horse.
I know, but it's not quite the same.
I think the keyboard's underrated.
Yeah, keyboard, piano. I wish that it's just nice to know, especially getting older and just like listening to when I got older, I started listening to a lot more jazz and a lot more just being able to sit and just listen to how complex people can be and how impressive they can be on the keyboard or the piano. It's just, and even production, all that sort of stuff, it all just feeds into itself.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one balls.
Yeah, see, now he complimented my good question. That's the way it's supposed to go. All right, last one. Okay. What's the last book you read?
Oh, wow. I was actually talking to someone yesterday. For some reason, I've gone off reading here for the last couple of months.
Me too. I haven't read in a long time. I used to read all the time.
I keep trying to get myself to read. I'm currently reading The Talent Code, but that's when I say currently, I mean it's been beside my bed for the last few months, and I'm just slowly chipping away.
No, that counts.
I'm trying to think of a book. The Nick Nurse book was really good. The Rapture. But yeah, I enjoy listening to podcasts more and having people summarize them for me.
Yeah,
me all the main
audio
points.
books and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, coaches love to read other coaching books.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Constantly got a book on the go.
I try not to read basketball stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If I can.
Yeah.
Because everyone recommends all stuff all the time.
Yeah,
but
you never get
probably
away
the
from
best
it.
book I've ever read was Don't Chase the Scream, which was about how we approach drug addiction and people who are addicted to drugs. It was just a fascinating read. So, yeah, because otherwise you get immersed in it and you read thousands of different books.
And you never leave it, like you never get a basketball.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, no, but Jacob, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on the podcast and get to know you a bit more. Super excited to see what you're able to do with this team. I know Balls and I are counting down eagerly to the start of the season and even to get everyone here for the preseason. So we really appreciate you making some time and coming on the podcast.
No, anytime. Thank you for having me.
No, absolute pleasure. Well, that'll do it for this week on the Extra Pass. Next week, we'll look to have Ariel Hook-Porty on the show, see if we can get him through the vast majority of the show without bleeping it all or making sure he's not swearing
more
constantly.
than 2 or 3 word answers.
But it'll be great. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.